All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, for the first time in a 162 game regular season in Major League Baseball since 2014, we're not going to have, or we didn't have rather, a team win at least 100 games this year. The closest team that came to winning 100 games this year were the Dodgers, as they went 98 and 64. So we really, I mean, we had good teams. Okay, don't get me wrong, but we didn't have that overwhelmingly dominant team. And I think with the MLB playoffs a little bit less than 24 hours away from beginning, it's one of those where I really feel that the best is yet to come. And when it comes to this postseason more than others, expect the unexpected. I really do think this thing is going to be a crapshoot. Don't get me wrong. The last 2 years, I've said it before, and I'm going to continue to say it. We've seen the sixth seed in the NL win the pennant. A couple of years before that, it was both the 5 and 6 seeds, making the LCS. So it was the Padres and the Phillies. But I think, this year, truly expect the unexpected, because you look at all 12 teams that are in here. On the American League side, you've got the Yankees, you've got the Orioles, you've got the Guardians, you've got the Kansas City Royals, you got the Detroit Tigers, and then you've got the Houston Astros. And then on the National League side, you've got the Phillies, the Braves, the Mets, the Brewers, the Dodgers, and the Padres. And I'm going to start in the American League because you look at the Yankees, and first and foremost, with their lineup, you've got two guys in that lineup that can put a team on their back for a series. You've got Juan Soto and you've got Aaron Judge. And then you've got a guy in Soto who is about to get paid regardless. Okay. But, he can really, add to that, if he helps the Yankees make a deep run. Do not, and I repeat, do not sleep on the Baltimore Orioles. Yeah, they stumbled down the stretch. They did not win the American League East like they did last year. However, the Orioles are a very formidable team. I think they can put it together and possibly make a run in this thing. Okay, it starts when they host the Kansas City Royals tomorrow in the wild card round. Then you look at the Guardians. The Guardians are one of those teams. They played in a smaller market, so I don't think enough people realized how good that Cleveland was this year. Okay, look out for this team. They have themselves a first round bye. Then you've got the Kansas City Royals and the Detroit Tigers, and I don't think that either one of these teams got the pub that they deserve this year as well. Two of the better stories in baseball. We're talking about two clubs that were losing 100 games, and now look at where they are right now. Both of them are in the postseason. All right. And then you've got the battle tested Houston Astros. The Astros were left for dead back in May when the Mariners had that big lead over them in the American League West. And as always, Houston found a way to get there. New manager, an older team. So you simply cannot count out the Astros. And then on the flip side, in the National League, you look at the Phillies. Okay, they won the NL pennant 2 years ago. They got to the LCS last year. They were up 2-0 before Arizona came back and rallied and won that series. And Philly's one of those teams that when they turn it on and they're clicking on all cylinders, just look out. Okay, you've got the Braves. They're battle tested. They got a lot of injuries, but they fought, scrapped, and clawed to get to this moment. You've got the Mets. And the Mets weren't expected to be here, but they have some momentum for themselves after the way that they played over the second half of the season. You've got the Brewers, who won 93 games. They dominated the Central. What can they do here in the playoffs? You've got the Dodgers. It's kind of like been there, done that. You basically can pencil the Dodgers in for the postseason every single year, but you wonder about their rotation. That's going to be the biggest thing. And of course, we've seen the Dodgers in recent years. They've won 100 plus games, but then they were sent home very early on in the postseason in 2022, courtesy of the Padres. And then last year, courtesy of the Arizona Diamondbacks. And speaking of those Padres, the Padres were another one of those teams. They were left for dead earlier this season. They got it going. And I look at this Padres team right now. I look at the way that Manny Machado is playing in the middle of that lineup. You look at Luis Ariz, who became the first player in MLB history to win three consecutive batting titles, okay, with three different teams. And then them getting back Fernando Tatis Jr. so late in the season just worked as a trade. The Padres are going to be a very dangerous team. You look at this wild card round, which begins tomorrow. You've got Tariq Skubal taking the mound for the Detroit Tigers against the Astros and Framber Valdez. Look out for the Tigers. I'm not going to sit up here and say that they're going to win, but look out for them. You've got the Baltimore Orioles. You've got Corbin Burns taking the mound for them. I do believe he's a free agent this year. He's looking to get a contract. You've got the Mets going back to Milwaukee. They just had a weekend series there. Severino's going up against Peralta. The Braves, they still haven't announced their pitching starter for Game 1 tomorrow night in San Diego. It's going to be Michael King for the Padres, but nonetheless, anything can happen. And this is what it's all about because I know that it's not an NCAA tournament, NFL playoff scenario where you know what, you win one game. I mean, you lose one game and it's done. Yeah, but you know what? At the end of the day, some people might disagree with what I'm about to say. It is all good. We've seen it a lot. Some of these teams, they get hot coming down the stretch. It carries over to the postseason and they can make themselves a run. I think back to the Colorado Rockies in 2007 and how hot that they got coming down the stretch of the regular season. It carried over into the postseason and they made their first World Series appearance in franchise history. I think back to the 2015 Mets when they got on that run after the Yoenis Cespedes trade. We saw it with the Phillies a couple of years ago, like I said before. We saw it with the Diamondbacks last year. We saw it with the Royals in 2014 as well. So you look at these teams, just get in and anything can happen. I think any and everything could happen. If you're a team that has a first round bye, it's not a guarantee that you're going to clearly advance to the division to the championship round, excuse me, because it's one of those. Some of these teams come in with a lot of momentum from the end of the regular season. That momentum carries over to the wild card round, and it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going. And in the case where you have scenarios where teams that are division rivals face off, you just simply throw the rule book out of the window. Why? Because these clubs are so familiar with one another. So when I think it's all said and done, this is what Major League Baseball wants. The ratings were up last year for the postseason, and I think they're going to be up once again. You look at it, you look at tomorrow's matchup, you have a Detroit Tigers fan base that has got to be excited. It's been a long time since the Tigers have been in the postseason. You look at the Kansas City Royals, they have not been here since they won the World Series in 2015. And I also think it's an opportunity for some of these young stars to get the chance to show what they can do on the big stage. You look at Bobby Witt Jr. For Kansas City, a star in the making. You look at Tariq Skubal, one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball. I think Juan Soto for the Yankees, granted, he's been here before, okay, helped the Washington Nationals win a World Series back in 2019, also helped the Padres get to the playoffs as well. It's one of those where I think he's one of those guys that's simply born for the big stage. You look at a guy like Francisco Lindor with how he put the Mets on his back to get to the postseason. Is he going to be able to build off of that this time around? A guy like Bryce Harper, and Bryce Harper, arguably one of Major League Baseball's best players. Okay, he gets another postseason opportunity to show what he can do. The 50-50 season by Shohei Ohtani. How's he going to build off of that? All of these guys that I'm mentioning, and please forgive me if I'm missing anybody, they now have their opportunity to shine on this big stage. And I think, like I said before, we are simply in store for a phenomenal postseason. I think more than other years, there's no clear-cut favorite, okay, to get to the Fall Classic, and I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite who I think, can go out there and win this thing. Any and everything can happen in October. That's what it's all about. It's like March Madness, hits the fall, but nonetheless, these Major League Baseball playoffs are going to be worth the price of admission and then some. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.